that little line that you said about we gotta enjoy while we can, that makes me a little worried because I tell you why. A little worried because of this. This broke
Mm,
out in the SEC spring meetings today. And
mm.
there's a possibility that the Alabama Tennessee rivalry may be going away on an annual basis. I'm not entirely
Wow.
sure. Huh?
I was just saying, like, wow, I'm shocked. This is
I hope I hope it does it, but when our AD was saying to the reporters today, he says if we go to 9, you might have some more flexibility with what that looks like. He wouldn't like to see the Tennessee rivalry go away, but I also realize that things are going to evolve and change. It would be a sad time if that were to happen, but also you have to deal with reality. Those words right there kind of scare me right there.
yeah,
But
that is rough. I look at this here and I just think of two iconic historic football programs. Obviously, I got to give Tennessee their respect as well. So, it makes it a little scary because this is, ideal football. This is matchups that people look forward to every year or every other year. And, especially when both teams are rolling and both teams are good. So it is a little scary knowing that this might get taken away, but I really can't see, although it's a lot of the conversations about it, I can't see it actually happening. Like I don't want to dwell on it too much
right.
personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I want to see the SEC, like regardless of how many games it goes to, I want to see them do what the Big Ten did,
Hmm.
whereas like Iowa, for example, they get to have Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska on an annual basis. The
Hmm.
Buckeyes got Michigan on an annual basis. Michigan gets to play Michigan State. Wisconsin gets to play Nebraska, well, not Nebraska, Iowa and Minnesota on an annual basis. I want to see it be like that for the SEC schools where it doesn't really matter. There's really no limit for annual
Yeah.
opponents. It could just be like 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. Like Texas has Oklahoma, Texas A&M. The other six opponents are I really don't care. Alabama for us, Auburn, Tennessee. My preparation would be Auburn, Tennessee. The six games can be I don't care. Have whoever you want. But
Mm.
a lot of people may say LSU should be that third opponent, but to each their own, I say. Um,
Yeah. It's unique comparing it to the Big Ten because especially since they've expanded, I think that's why we're seeing so many different conversations about, oh, will the SEC continuously have this game? Will they change things up? Because we're kind of in a mix of seeing what each conference is doing right now. I mean, especially after Washington, USC, and Oregon moved over to the Big Ten, that shook a lot of different things up, and it's still fairly new for a lot of people. Like to keep in mind now that, oh, well, these big Ohio State schools don't have to just worry about Michigan and the Penn State. Now they got to worry about USC and Oregon. So it's like I think we're seeing a new type of design that we're crawling into with the way that these conferences are orchestrated, especially since like Pac-12 is just pretty much gone down the drain at this point. So I'm sure in the next few years we'll see the Big Ten and SEC kind of make a lot of changes of bringing in new schools, bringing in more schools, and then figuring out how they can like play each other and who will play each other. And this makes me think too of one of the quotes. I'll pull it up too because it makes me think of one of the quotes from DeBoer. He mentioned he was talking about just like last year's playoffs. And I don't want to dwell on last year's playoffs too much, but that's not even the reason that I'm thinking about this. So the quote, and let's see if I can get the graphic up here to show you, but he mentioned about the games from last year of not making the playoffs. So in his quote, obviously, as you see here, he said, on being left out of the playoffs last year, you wonder what would have happened if other people would have played our schedule. And the only reason I even bring this up is because schedule strength has been in discussion as well over the past few years of, oh, well, this team had a tough schedule. Should these losses be penalized, or should they be penalized by these losses? Or this team had an easy schedule. No wonder they're undefeated. Anyone could have went undefeated if they had that same easy schedule. I think this is also going to play a factor into the matchups between the SEC schools, of the historic matchups, and if these teams will continue to play each other or not.
Yeah, because I do also worry a little more about like Auburn, Georgia, about what's going to happen to that game.
Yeah.
But it's like we've got enough of this conversation with like USC Notre Dame worrying about the possibility of that game. Now we're worrying about like potentially Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia, and on that list, Texas A&M. We just got it back. I don't want to lose that game again.
Yeah, this is true, and you know, I think the deeper issue comes down to like schools trying to figure out, are we going to play other tough schools, or are we just going to try and find schools we know we can beat so we can get into the playoffs? Once they figure out if strength schedule will be a big factor of making the playoffs or how teams are going to be ranked, then I think that's when we'll know for sure if we'll get certain games again. Because if it's going to be if I'm going to be penalized for playing against a top seed in Georgia or Tennessee, why would I go play them every year when I can just, in a way, dodge them, go play Utah or go play Middle Tennessee, beat them, and keep an undefeated record, and worry about whoever I got to play in the playoffs?
Yeah, or basically try to finish in the top 4. But if you get in the SEC title game, you're automatically in the playoffs.
Yeah. With the format that they have, and you know, with the format, this is why I kind of dislike the format, as a lot of people know, but I think it needs some tweaking. You got to shake some things up with this format, because it's just not, it's not putting the best teams in the best position, especially when you talk about, you know, week one or the first round matchups of, okay, well, this team, yeah, they did win their conference, but now because they won their conference, they don't have to play anyone tough, or they have to play anyone tough. They just got to restructure it and make sure that we're getting the best matchups, and the schools that clearly were the best all regular season are in a way getting the easiest matchup because they were the best all season. So it's weird how they're doing it.
There you go. I mean, we'll definitely wait and see what happens, and I hope that none of the rivalries are all gone. But we'll be waiting and seeing what happens, I guess. But it's not the what we know part that kind of scares a lot of us and all of you watching as well. It's the what we don't know is what scares us.
Yeah.
The unknown is scary.